Hello, my name is Neil Forbes. I'm a veterinary surgeon, a Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons specialist, recognised specialist in zoo and wildlife brackets avian, and a diplomat of the European College of Zoological Medicine, with my specialist field being in avian. I'm delighted to be talking to you today, not only as a specialist in avian medicine, as someone who's used F10 and been very happy and confident in its application for more than 20 years, but I'm delighted also to share with you the fact that I am now the veterinary advisor for health and hygiene. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the use of F10 in the hatchery situation. Now, obviously we can't cover all aspects, but I'm going to stick to the core important things to concentrate on. Before we start, I just want to share with you what makes F10 different. And basically the answer is that we have safety testing of all finished products. That's not the constituent parts that make up the disinfectant, but the finished product by accredited, quality controlled, government approved laboratories. And they're tested for safety in respect of eyes, inhalation, skin, and also for efficacy in respect of all significant pathogens that may be a problem to you. And what's unique about health and hygiene is we are an ethical and evidence-based company. And what that means is that we provide you with the safety and the efficacy test certificates. And that's pretty unique within the disinfectant industry. As well as all those safety certificates, there's considerable other information, testimonials, application instructions and so forth on the health and hygiene website, and I would invite you to have a look on there. The website link and all the test and safety, efficacy data sheets are all available for you in the description box associated with this YouTube video. So I hope you find that useful. It's true to say that health and hygiene provides added value to all products across its range, with training and education of distributors, clients and users, with this and similar presentations, together with that comprehensive fact-packed website. So let's concentrate now on artificial incubation. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about reptiles or birds, it's all going to be much the same. It's certainly true to say that once you've got your temperature and your humidity sorted, then by far, the next most important aspect to deal with is infection control. Absolutely crucial. It's essential that your incubation, your hatchery rooms are clean, they're disinfected regularly, and that all staff are dressed and wearing appropriate PPE. This is an image from one of the collections which I have consulted on in the Middle East, where we have a tunnel. So as staff members arrive at work, they are obliged to shower, wash their hair, put on clean uniforms. Obviously, all the uniforms and shoes stay on site. And then they walk down this tunnel, which is fogged with F10 and is supplied with ultraviolet light on either side. And that lasts for about 20 meters or so to do our very best to make sure that all our staff arrive on site. And by the time they've been through that facility, that they're nicely disinfected and clean. It's certainly important and true to say that incubation and hatchery rooms should have limited access. This is not where people gather for their morning cup of tea. The only people who go into these rooms are the people who essentially have to work there. So limited access, essential personnel only. Very, very important to maintain really good records. Every egg needs to be identified using a soft, non-toxic pencil. We need to keep records for every egg laid from every hen, what date did she lay which number egg from her clutch, and then from there you need to record the fertility rates, the hatchability rates, the rearing success, not only for each hen but for each building or group that the hen belongs to, and for each incubator and for each rearing room, if there's more than one rearing room, that those eggs and chicks pass through. And it's only by recording this data and monitoring it on a very regular basis, at least weekly, if not twice a week, then if you do that, if there is a problem with infection, contamination, you can actually pinpoint exactly where it's coming from, because you know which incubator, which group of hens, etc., and then you can quickly control it. It's certainly true to say that in any animal breeding scenario, the hygiene level tends to deteriorate as the season progresses. The more animals you have coming through, whether they be lambs, calves, chicks, camels, whatever it may be, the more that come through the system, the greater the risk that you will have a build-up of contamination. And it's only by starting clean, by maintaining cleaning, by disinfection and hygiene levels, and by measuring the outcome of the cleaning, that you can avoid the deathly contagions and the otherwise inevitable increasing mortality levels. Okay, so let's talk about maintaining incubator and hatchery room hygiene. Apart from being fastidious about cleaning, these rooms should be fogged regularly. When we're talking about fogging, I'll show you some images of fogging in a moment. It's appropriate to be using a ULV machine, and we're talking about a damp fogging. That's not a dry fogging, but a damp fogging. But the crucial thing is your settings on your fogging machine should be set to deliver as small a particle size as possible, certainly less than 10 mu, and the duration of fogging and the setting up of the fogger should mean that every surface in the room becomes contacted by the mist, and this mist will just be slightly damp, and each surface should become slightly damp but not wet. You don't use fogging to the point where everything gets wet, but every surface should be just damp. And remember the importance of that. It's the lipid surface layer on the surface where the pathogens tend to get trapped, and where it's that lipid surface layer that becomes the fomite from which infection is passed from one place to another place. So this is an image of a static multi-port fogger. So you might put this in the center of your hatchery room or an incubator room with it all set and automated, so it comes on automatically, maybe 3 times a day for half an hour, and that will the mist, as it settles in the room, it will drag any pathogen particles down onto the surfaces, and of course disinfect them once it hits there. These are 2 other systems here. On the left-hand side, we have a plug-in poultry house fogger, and on the right-hand side, we have a compressed air fogger. Both of them work extremely well. Remember, it's not just plug it in and ignore it. You need to just make sure that the settings are right and that it really is doing the job properly for you. And just to stress, the reason why fogging works is because it reaches every area of the room where airborne contamination infection may be taken to. And the reason why we can use F10 is because F10 doesn't corrode metal. That means that the working parts inside a fogger are not destroyed by the use of F10 in it. And the great thing about F10 safety is that both staff and birds and chicks and eggs can safely be in the environment that's being fogged without any detriment to them. Okay, as a consultant dealing with hatchery problems, nothing fills me with more dread than contact from a hatchery close to the end of their season saying, we've got a problem with dying chicks and increased dead in shells. And it's such a common problem. And the reason it upsets me is that if their chicks are dying, that is the end result. And it's caused by something that happened probably 15, 20 days earlier, typically in the incubators themselves, or it could be in the rearing room. But what it means is the chicks that are dying at age, say 10, 15 days of age, that is the tip of the iceberg. We have a whole tranche of chicks that have been through the system that have been infected that are yet to get sick and potentially die. So if it's near the end of the season, there's probably very little that we can do to resolve and stop future chicks dying. We can put them on antibiotics and so on, but it's not necessarily going to be effective. And this whole thing has arisen because they failed to maintain their hygiene levels. Okay, so let's talk ourselves through the actual progression through the hatchery. Firstly, in terms of collecting eggs, obviously we use a sanitized tray. So we have a dipping box, a container filled with F10 SC 1 in 250 solution, and we actually submerge the trays into the dipping box. Remember, the whole thing about disinfectants are you must clean the surface first. Then you must make sure you're using a concentration of F10 appropriate for the worst pathogen that might be in your environment, and it has to be at the right temperature, and the contact time has to be appropriate for that pathogen. So make sure you get that all right. Having, say, this tank that you can submerge things in for 15 minutes means you achieve your contact time, and it will be effective. So you put your collecting trays in there, leave them in there for 15 minutes, take them out, let them dry, and then you line those with clean, soft paper towels. Now, when it comes to collecting eggs, obviously your staff must know they have to wash their hands using F10 hand wash solution. They wash their hands, applying the World Health Organization hand washing technique, as you've got on the right hand side here. And it's great to have posters like this actually laminated and put above the sinks to make sure that everyone does do it properly. And then, having washed their hands, of course, they apply clinical gloves as well. Of course, only clean and undamaged eggs should be set. Any dubious eggs can be set, but if you're going to do that, you must put them in a separate high-risk incubator so that one contaminated egg is not going to contaminate all of the healthy, clean eggs in a normal incubator. Any gross contamination should be removed from the eggshells, and then eggs can be sanitized either using a UV box or by dipping. So here we've got an image of a UV box. Normally these would be set up with racks inside with UV bulbs under the eggs and also above the eggs, and they're put in there for a certain period of time, and that can be useful. Egg dipping can be very effective and certainly can increase hatchability. However, you must be careful how you do it. The really crucial thing is the temperature of the dipping solution must be warmer than the egg. So if you're going to dip your eggs, use eggs that are cool, they're at room temperature, and make sure that your dipping solution is warmer. And what I would normally suggest is you put the eggs in a tray, so you're not actually handling each individual eggs. Put the eggs in a tray, and then you dip the whole tray, you submerge the tray, and then you lift it out and you let it dry in a warm place using F10 1 in 250 solution. But as just to stress, really important. And if you're not happy that your staff can make sure that the dipping solution is warmer, then it's not a good thing to be using. But it can be very useful. Disinfecting your incubators before use, again, because F10 does not corrode metal. F10 makes a wonderful, effective and safe and good disinfectant for using in incubators. Obviously, you take the incubator apart and you clean everything, clean the constituent parts individually, put them all back together, obviously wearing your sanitized clinical gloves, and then, of course, you can spray in there with an F10 SC 1 in 250 solution spray, or ready to use or made up spray. And then, having set that at the beginning of the season, obviously, again, I would suggest that you're using some system, whether that be settle plates, microbiology swabs, or ATP testing, to really verify that the surfaces are clean. And the way I would do that is make sure your staff actually do the cleaning, and then the supervisor comes and does the verification process. So, setting eggs in the incubator, this should all be on an all-in, all-out basis. You don't have an incubator you keep adding eggs to and taking chicks out of. It's everything in, everything out. And that's the only way to actually make sure you maintain that hygiene level. Ideally, you should only have the same size eggs in each incubator, because obviously the surface area to body ratio in the egg means that they will lose weight at a different rate. And ideally, what you should be doing is transferring eggs from the incubator you're using to a prepared and cleaned incubator on a weekly basis. So every week, you get another incubator cleaned and ready, and you transfer the eggs over, and then you sanitize the one that the eggs have been in. The concept of putting eggs in and leaving them in one incubator without doing anything about hygiene for 28 days is a tremendous risk. Obviously, in that process, you should be handling and removing dead-in shells and infertile eggs on a regular basis, because any dead-in shell or any infertile egg creates a risk to the sanitization of every other egg in that incubator. So here we have some eggs. These are a bit of a variable size, and it's not an ideal situation, but it just it reinforces the point that they should be the same. They obviously shouldn't be touching, and they should be of the same hygiene status, in other words, clean. Important that you investigate any dead in shells. So this is an egg post-mortem just taking place. So we've used our Dremel to cut a window, and then we can have a look inside and see what we see. It's really rather unpleasant. And then we tip it out into a Petri dish and we can see. And obviously crucial, you will know that the mortality levels in the first, second and third trimester of incubation will generally have different causes. And it's important that you investigate those and find out what the problems are, using microbiology testing as well to check for any contamination. So use your F10 daily. You must have clean staff. You must have clean and fogged incubation and hatchery rooms. You must have clean eggs, clean incubators, clean hatches, clean rearers. Good food and water hygiene for your chicks, just as important as the incubation. Control contagion and infection in all areas. Working with F10 to create healthy chicks. It's kind of obvious, but it's so important. An investment of time, care, effort, and the use of an evidence-based product in a hatchery yields benefits that last the whole lifespan of every single chick that you hatch. So really important to get this right. Just remind you that in the description box of YouTube, we have the contact list for the links for all the pages on the website, and also all the references for you to have a look at, having watched this video. I hope it's all been useful to you. You know, hatchery is a really exciting place to work, but so important to get it right. Thanks very much for your time, and I invite you to have a look at some of our other bird of prey and Hubara videos, webinars. Thank you very much.